Hi all, let's look at a very important game from the World Candidates Tournament being held in Berlin. So 8 of the world's best players compete to earn the right to challenge Magnus Carlsen. Aronian, Karjakin, Caruana, Liren, Mamedyarov, Grischuk, Kramnik and Wesley So. So this is from the 10th to 28th. This is the first decisive game. Let's have a look. Fabiano Caruana playing white against Wesley So. D4. We have knight f6, c4, e6. Now g3 is played. This is the third most popular move in Chessbase live book. Usually knight c3 or knight f3. This is still very well trodden territory. Bishop b4 check, bishop d2, bishop e7. So a disruptive check there to weaken white's control of d4. Bishop g2, d5, knight f3, both sides castle, c6. Now queen b3. Slightly less usual than queen c2 here actually. For example, knight bd7, bishop f4, this is very well trodden. So queen b3, which does seem very logical to put some pressure on the queen side. Knight bd7, bishop f4, a5, rook d1, now knight h5. The bishop goes all the way back here. The knight goes back. Knight bd2, b5. This looks like a very energetic move from black. If white ever takes here, you might be wondering, he didn't do this. There's bishop a6 in this position, and actually black would end up being slightly better here. So that pawn shouldn't really be taken. We have c5, just closing the position here. b4, queen c2, which eyes h7. Now you'll note the queen's in quite a nice place to eye the sensitive h7 spot. a4, rook e1, as though e4 is going to be played. Black plays e5, trying to disrupt white's pawn chain here. That's actually taken with the knight. Knight takes, d takes, knight d7. So a temporary pawn sack. Black going to regain that pawn very shortly, but at what cost? Knight f3. Bishop takes c5. You'll note that there's an absence of the h7 defender, and white plays a very direct move here, knight g5, threatening to checkmate with queen takes h7, checkmate. So we have g6 defending h7, bishop f4 defending the pawn. You might have thought, hold on a sec, isn't this very tempting for e6? Well, the problem is there's a snag here after f takes. Knight takes, there's queen f6 hitting f2, and there's a loose rook here. So for example, knight takes, c5, check is a disaster for white. That's one to be avoided. e6 too early here, the f file is too much. So actually just bishop f4 is played. And now we have queen b6 hitting f2 again. e4 not only putting pressure on d5 but laterally defending f2. b3, a takes, the queen goes to e2, still protecting f2, and still stuff like e6 is on the cards. And you also note the rooks are hitting each other here. We have now bishop a6. Maybe it seems rook a2 might be playable here as a good alternative to bishop a6. For example, e takes, bishop a6. Now this position where black is putting a lot of pressure on a file, and even so this is still a small edge for white here, but this might be a viable alternative to bishop a6. So rook a2 is interesting to consider for the analysts. Bishop a6 though, we have queen f3, and technically white is doing very well now. There's sensitive points on d5 and f7. We see bishop c4 trying to add support for f7. White takes off the a8 rook and now plays e6, disrupting the king safety, really taking my pawn away from the black king's shield potentially. D takes though, just letting f7 be taken. That was one of the points of bishop c4, to be able to take back here with the bishop. But now knight takes e4. And this is an exceptionally dangerous position for black. Let me just show you, for example, well, black played bishop d4. For example, knight f8, knight f6 check, say king g7. There's a crushing blow, bishop h6 check here. This position, knight g4 check, queen f6, and knight h6 mating. That shows some of the dangers for black's king in this position. That a natural move, looking move like knight f8 can be such a disaster. On something like on rook e8, h4 is good for white. This position is very comfortable for white as well. But okay, we have bishop d4, which does neglect that d6 square. White goes straight into that d6 square, threatening horrible things like knight takes f7. Bishop d5, queen e2 now, wanting to play queen e6 if ever the bishop dares take. There's queen e6 check, very dangerous. Knight f8. And now bishop takes d5 check. C takes. Queen f3, although e6 is covered, now d5 is attacked. And it's uncomfortable because also potentially f7 is attacked. Queen a5 defending d5, hitting the rook. But now the rook swings into the 7th rank. And actually, there's really no viable defense in this position. The pieces are coordinating very well for white. The game actually ended, so Wesley So resigned here. Let's have a look at why. So knight e6 as an example. Bishop e3 threatens queen f7 check and queen h7 mating. If rook f8, can you see what white could play in this position if I give you 5 seconds to pause the video? Okay, there will be a pin and win here with rook e8, pinning that rook and threatening queen f7. So for example like this, it's just all over. This would be like mating. So that's one example. So yeah, this position is very, very dangerous. Knight d7 as an example, bishop h6, knight f6, queen e2 threatening queen e6. And this is just hopeless for black. There's no defense around the king here. If knight e4, knight takes, and then queen c4 check, queen takes d4 is just mating next move on g7. If the queen doesn't go in front. So yeah, nothing's really helping here in this final position. It's quite subtle, but yeah, the coordination is a bit killer. Check doesn't help. Knight e4 again, the same thing. We just take here, and then queen c4. Yeah. Now, let's look at finally king h8. Here, the bishop is defending on this diagonal, but it can be deflected with bishop e3. And this looks exceptionally nasty. For example, check, bishop going back. There's check, check here. And now can you see what white could do in this position? If I give you 5 seconds. Okay, rook takes g7, just wiping out defense completely. Check, and then bishop d4 is checkmate. Yeah, so a very interesting game arising from the Catalan opening. So the Catalan opening is the first opening to score in this heavyweight tournament, such a high profile tournament. So congratulations to Fabiano Caruana. A fabulous game from Fabi. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this game, and I hope there's many more exciting games from this candidates tournament. Okay, comments, questions, likes, shares appreciated. Thanks very much.